Hey, this is Mark Williams, author of Embracing Lilith and Embodying Lilith. Another video for Circle of the Dark Mother. Wanted to talk today about aspects of Lilith. So we'll get into that. So aspects of Lilith. Because I work with Kabbalah, I consider there to be several aspects or personalities that fit into the spheres within Kabbalah, the Sephirot of the Tree of Life and the Qliphoth of the Tree of Shadows. So the Sephirot are the bright spheres, the Qliphoth are the dark spheres. And really this is different emanations of deity. And in Kabbalah, there's an idea of partzufim, which are personalities of deity that are literally like separate beings, but they all connect back at higher universes to the same being, the same energy consciousness. So we're going to talk today about some of these aspects, which I just described in my book, Embodying Lilith, a Gnostic Kabbalah of Lilith. You can see the list below, which is what we're going to talk about. I'm not going to go into the alternate ones. Some of them have an and with a second name. I'm not going to go into those because the videos can be long enough as it is. So I'm only going to go into the primary. If you want to learn more about this or want to delve deeper, there's information on our website, circulus-matrim.com, or other videos, and also my book, as I said, Embodying Lilith. So the first aspect I want to talk about is Neama. The sphere on the Tree of Life, or Sephirot, is kingdom, Malkut, and the sphere on the Tree of Shadows, or the Qliphoth, is Lilith, Queen of the Night. Now, this is not Lilith the being. This is the sphere or husk named Lilith. Neama means pleasant and is closely related to Lilith in Jewish tradition. She is sometimes referred to as Lilith's daughter or sister. She is one of the four spirits of prostitution, along with Lilith, Ardat bat Malat, and Aishet Zunanim. Lilith, of course, Ardat bat Malat, and Aishet Zunanim will all be discussed later in this video. Neama is mentioned in what we call the Old Testament, or the Torah, as a descendant of Cain, sister of Tubal-Cain, and also mentioned as Noah's wife in the Quran and in Midrash, which is extra biblical texts by rabbis that go into more detail. I consider Neama the aspect of Lilith at this first sphere. She was a living incarnation of Lilith that took form, but then after, of course, death, returns to be a spiritual form. In ritual, when I do magic, I work with Neama for the following: romance and love, physical needs, protection of women, and binding of aggressive men. The next one is Lilith the Younger. The sphere on the Tree of Life, or Sephirot, is foundation, Yesod. The sphere on the Tree of Shadows, or Qliphoth, is Gamaliel, the obscene ones. The Kabbalistic texts often, actually once in a while, refer to two Liliths. The first is Lilith the Elder, being called the first wife of Adam, and Lilith the Younger, who is said to be the daughter of Quaft Zephani, the prince of King and King of Heaven, and his wife Mehetrabel, the daughter of Matred. Lilith the Younger is the wife of Ashmedai, Asmodeus in English, and Lilith the Elder is the wife of Samiel. Midrash claims that these two Liliths battled, but it's really unclear why or how they're different, other than, one obviously has parents that seem to be angelic, where the other one was created by God, as God, the Father and the Mother, as the first wife of Adam. And then, of course, who their partners are. But then most of the texts just refer to Lilith. They don't refer to Lilith the Younger or Lilith the Elder. So I consider most of them to refer to Lilith the Elder, and only want the ones that specifically call out Lilith the Younger to be about her. I place Lilith the Younger at the second sphere. She is more a succubus aspect of Lilith. And in ritual, I work with Lilith the Younger for the following: sexual requests, dreams, shame, and self-esteem issues. The next aspect is Az, or Lilit. Az and Lilit are both really Sumerian or Mesopotamian names. And that shouldn't be surprising because Lilith started out as a Mesopotamian goddess and then was later brought into Judaism. And that's really because, well, first of all, Mesopotamia is not very far from Israel. And second of all, because the people of Israel were taken over, their country was taken over by the Babylonians, which is part of Mesopotamia. And many of them were exiled into Babylon. And that means that they learned a lot of the information from Babylon. In Zoroastrianism, which is a tradition that comes out of Persia, as is the demon of avarice, gluttony, insatiability, and lust. She's often paired with Niaz, want, and is featured also in Zervanite and Manichaean texts. In one text, Az swallows everything and anything to satisfy her want, but she's never fulfilled. Az is the aspect of Lilith that combines all of her anthropomorphic forms. So for instance, a spider goddess, a Lamia, where she's half serpent, anything where you mix, a goddess with any kind of bestial form. And in her spider form, she traverses the tree like a web. And this means the tree of life and the tree of shadows, and she can move in between them, basically just by spinning her web between each of the universes. I place Az at the third sphere, and in ritual, I work with Az for the following: navigating difficult situations, catching someone on a lie, working with animals and animalistic spirits, and binding someone from harming others. The next aspect is also a Sumerian name, Ardat Lili, later to be known as Lilitu. The sphere of the tree of life or Sephiroth is victory, Netzach. The sphere on the tree of shadows or Qliphoth is Arab Zarak, the ravens of dispersion. Ardat Lili first appears as a Sumerian storm spirit, predating the mention of Lilith in myth and legend. She's later considered a succubus and vampire who seduces men into masturbation. She is also said to marry men to create havoc in their lives. Even though Ardat Lili's name is listed prior to Lilith, Lilitu, Lilit in the written record, later demonic traditions call her Lilith's firstborn daughter with Samael. Ardat Lili is primarily mentioned in the early Sumerian period. Later, she's known as Lilitu in Akkadian and Babylonian periods. I place Ardat Lili at the fourth sphere, and in ritual, I work with her for the following: visions of the future, trying to sway someone to a particular outcome. Now, I don't do mind control work, but if I want to nudge somebody towards something, I will work with her, and to mask my presence from someone. Now, that's spiritually not really like an invisibility spell or something like that. The next aspect is Noria. The sphere on the tree of life or Sephiroth is beauty, Tiferet, and the sphere on the tree of shadows or Qliphoth is Thagirian, the disputers. Noria also means pleasant, just like Neama does, but the name Noria comes from the Coptic scriptures of the Gnostics, where Neama comes from Hebrew with a similar name in Aramaic. Noria is the main protagonist in the Gnostic texts, the hypostasis of the archons, and the thought of Noria. Noria is an enlightened being in Gnostic tradition who's said to be either Eve's daughter or Noah's wife. And there again, you see this, this hint at Noah's wife, just like Neama. She encounters Noah in one of the texts, and he won't let her on the ark, so she burns it with her mind, basically, making him start over. She is a major nemesis to the archons, which are sort of like demonic rulers of the world who sort of do their own thing for their own power. And so she is an enlightened being that is seen as sort of a savior to the Gnostics. I place her in the fifth sphere. I work with her for the following: spiritual progress, insight into myths and legends, and burning away any old thought patterns. The next is probably the most severe of all of these personalities, and that's Agrat Bat Malat. Sphere on the tree of life or Sephiroth is severity, Gavora, and the sphere on the tree of shadows, Qliphoth, is Golachab, the flaming ones. Ardat bat Malat means daughter of Malat, Ardat, daughter of Malat, who is sometimes called Igeret and is considered a demoness in Jewish folklore. She is also one of the spirits of prostitution and closely related to Lilith and said to be one of the consorts of Samael. In some tales, she's said to be the daughter of Lilith, and in others, the daughter of Naama. She's the youngest of the three, Lilith, Naama, or Ardat, but she's usually depicted as an ancient hag. And that's probably because of her severe qualities. I place her at the sixth sphere, and when I work with her in ritual, I do that with the following: binding strong magic to show those who hurt others what it feels like to be harmed, deflecting curses. She is one of the most severe aspects. And since I don't personally do curses, now I will rebound things, I will bind, I will do things like that, but I don't actually out and out curse. If I was to do that, I would never use Ardat because she will go to the nth degree. In fact, I usually ask her to be merciful in the way she does things because her mercy is severity for many. The next one is Belqis, the queen of Sheba. The sphere on the tree of life, or Sephirot, is mercy has said. The sphere on the tree of shadows, or Cliffoth, is Ga Agshabalah, the smiters. The location of Sheba has been debated, and really whether the queen of Sheba actually existed. But it's been identified as either the South Arabian kingdom of Saba, which is in present-day Yemen, or with Ethiopia. The biblical account in the book of Kings states the queen of Sheba came to Jerusalem with a huge caravan containing gifts for King Solomon. When they met, she presented him with several riddles to solve to prove his worth. And then Jewish Midrash and the Kabbalistic sources associate her with Lilith. There's a story where Solomon sees her bare legs and they're covered in hair, and he immediately knows she's Lilith in disguise. That's also talked about in the Quran. The other thing with it is that they do end up marrying and having children together. So I guess he wasn't too concerned it was Lilith, but that is one of the stories. In ritual, I work with Belqis for the following: acts of mercy, acquiring money and prestige, opening the way for anything, and beauty and attraction. The next sphere is Lilith, and I qualify with this as Lilith the Elder, but really anytime it's not Lilith the Younger, it's Lilith, just Lilith. So the sphere on the tree of life, or Sephirot, is understanding, Bina. The sphere on the tree of shadows, or Cliffoth, is Sateriel, the concealers. As we discussed at the second sphere, some Kabbalistic Midrash discusses two Liliths, Lilith the Younger and Lilith the Elder. However, most writings only talk of one Lilith and don't mention younger or elder. Since Lilith is usually associated with Samael and not discussed having angelic parents, it's assumed by many and by me that they're always talking about Lilith the Elder if they don't specify. This Lilith is the first wife of Adam, the partner of Samael, the sometimes consort of God, and eventually an enlightened goddess. Lilith at the level of Bina, or understanding, and also at Sateriel, the concealers, is the dark mother who brings transformation to all of creation. I place Lilith at the eighth sphere. In ritual, I work with her for the following: universal protection, major healing of mental or physical issues, breaking bonds, and changes to human consciousness at a grand scale. And really, I work with her for a lot of other things. Sometimes I'll just go right to her instead of some of the other aspects, but those are the things she's especially good with. The next aspect is Obizuth. The sphere of the tree of life, or Sephirot, is understanding, Hokmah. The sphere on the tree of shadows, or Cliffoth, is Gagiel, the hinderers. In the Testament of Solomon, which is an obscure text not in the Bible, a demon named Abizuth appears to King Solomon saying, "I am a fierce spirit of myriad names and shapes," which, again, fits into this idea of these personalities of Lilith. She says she travels the world at night to torment women in childbirth, giving them increased pain and putting their life at risk. She's described as having a green complexion, long snake-like hair, and a body hidden in darkness. Interestingly, her demeanor is bright and cheerful. The Mandaeans, which are a Gnostic sect that's now in Iraq and Iran, although I believe they're being wiped out and they're moving out of there because of what's been happening with them. They actually worship John the Baptist as the Messiah, but they say in their holy texts that Lilith's son by an angel states that the comment about her hurting children and mothers is a lie, and that she actually comforts them through the difficulty of childbirth. I place Abizuth at the ninth sphere, and I work with her for the following in ritual: uncovering hidden knowledge, acquiring the true name of a spirit, stopping negative movements of energy, and concealing what I want concealed. The next, which is the highest sphere on the tree, I associate with Omaraka. So the sphere on the tree of life or Sephiroth is Crown Keter, and the sphere on the tree of shadows or the Qliphoth is Thamiel, the twin gods. Omaraka is the aspect of Lilith beyond creation and beyond time, space, and human understanding. She's much like a great dragon of the void, which is the first desire of creation, and the chaos which sparks all. She's pure darkness, consciousness with no restraints. Her name is found in Mesopotamian lore, describing her as having similar presentation to the dragon goddess Tiamat, yet she is always black and this sort of cosmic being. So she is the closest we get to what Kabbalah talks about, no thing, something beyond anything. I place her at the 10th sphere, and in ritual, I work with her for the following: reaching the highest levels of consciousness, understanding that which is beyond our world, and assistance with the afterlife. The last personality I'm going to talk about is Aishet Zunanim. And the sphere that she is associated with is actually not a Sephiroth or a Qliphoth. It appears just below Keter, the top sphere. It is a tunnel between universes. And so it's a non-Sephiroth called Dayat, which means knowledge. On the Tree of Shadows, it is also a non-Qliphoth. It again is a tunnel between universes. And it is called Dayat, still meaning knowledge, but it's often called the abyss. Aishet Zunanim is called the woman of whoredom. And she's again one of the spirits of prostitution, along with Lilith, Neama, and Agrat Batmalat. Aishet is associated with Egypt and one of the wives of Samiel. Her title is sometimes Kodesha, which is based on the Hebrew word Kodesh, which means sacred. And this means she is a sacred prostitute, which I believe all prostitution in some way is, but hers is a very, very sacred calling. Her associations point to her being an aspect of Lilith, one of her many faces. Dayat, which is the gate between realms, accepts all who are ready, much as the stereotype of a whore is that they will accept any who come to them. I place Aishet Zunanim at the 10th sphere, actually beyond the 10th sphere at this non-sphere. In ritual, I work with Aishet for the following: transformation, shadow work, acceptance, issues dealing with fear. If you'd like to know more, again, check out my book, Embodying Lilith, a Gnostic Kabbalah of Lilith. In that, I go through all these spheres. I do a basic Kabbalah introduction with these aspects of Lilith and everything else associated with the spheres. And then the second part are all the paths in the Tree of Life, which are associated with Hebrew letters, Qliphothic tunnels, and with tarot cards, the major arcana. So check that out if you want to learn more, or go to our website, circulus-matrim.com. And again, you can also look at all our videos here on YouTube. Thanks.